told you that by exercising a skill, which all of you have had since first grade, you are likely to become a wealthier and more successful person in the future. This is a tool which mankind has regarded as an essential tool for thousands of years. First acknowledged 5,000 years ago, it was considered a symbol of power and influence to anybody who could harness it. The few who had this ability were considered better than, empowered, almighty even, whereas now, even though all of you possess it, less will choose to use it out of your own will. So what is this skill that can promise a free vacation, an immediate adventure, or a passionate turn of events? The answer to this riddle? Reading. That is, for personal enjoyment. How many of you here, with a show of hands, can tell me that you dislike reading? Dislike. How many of you here, with a show of hands, can tell me that you wish you were reading this instant? I'm here to tell you that you should love reading, and to show you that you will love reading once you understand its hidden power. To fully grasp the importance of this tool, let's look at history. Innovation in 3000 BC meant things as basic as reading and writing, and it was a defining characteristic of what a civilization was. The creation of this silent code that can transfer a message without making a sound led settlements to become the progressive cultures we see today. In ancient Egypt, for example, people actually dedicated their entire lives to reading and writing. These scribes were often appointed as chief ministers next to government officials. It is safe to say that the few in ancient Egypt who had this ability, which only comprised 1% of the population, were well at the top of the social hierarchy and were respected in their community. Reading and writing opened doors to understanding the self, society, and the natural world. It meant that you had greater understanding, greater insight, and control over ideas shared. It was appreciated as a power. Do you see this reflected in our society today? In our country, in our city, or in our classrooms? Nowadays, reading and writing is old news. It is no longer appreciated as a power, because this inflation and accessibility to literacy has entirely shifted the demand to read. So, reading is widely disregarded by youth. A study published by the Huffington Post showed that out of a pool of 1,000 Americans, 28% had not read a single book in the past year. It is shocking to see such a high number in a country that is considered a world's power. But that's the United States. What about here in Managua at our very school? A survey was sent to you last week asking a couple of questions on a scale from 0 to 5. I was glad to see that to the question, is reading important? The vast majority of you said it was really important. However, that didn't reflect on the next question. How much do you enjoy reading? Almost 70% of you seemed unsure and answered in the lower categories. And to the next question, how many books have you read in the past 6 months? 15% of you had not read a single book. And about 1/3 of you had read maybe 1 or 2. How is it possible that we're not reading and that Americans aren't reading? How is it possible that we're not reading when 83% of the world today is reported as literate? A potential answer lies in one of the greatest, yet arguably detrimental advancements of our time: information and communication technologies. As attention shifted towards your iPhones, laptops, Netflix, and social media, reading has become stale. So, modern technology has a yin and a yang. Although it has united our worlds, enhanced communication, provided amusement, and even educated us through platforms like Khan Academy and TED, it also has a dark side. Technology, first off, is very addictive. Americans are reported to watch up to 4 hours of television alone a day, and rates of this addiction are as high as 25% in this population. This can harm you in different ways. It can harm you psychologically, since the overuse of technology is associated with the development of psychiatric disorders, especially ADHD. It can also harm you socially, since the overuse of technology is associated with less social interaction, consequently less social skills. And it can even harm you physically, as computer vision syndrome strains our eyesight and is fairly common, affecting from 50 to 90% of people who view a computer screen daily, and that includes us. However, unlike technology, books won't harm you. Reading has never been reported to create psychological or social problems. Contrarily, it can solve such disorders. If you still don't believe me, I have narrowed down my 4 main benefits which reading provides, in the way that it is really a superpower. We all know that reading has a strong correlation with academic achievement, but do you know why? The National Endowment for the Arts found that SAT scores are roughly 30 points higher for people with 100 or more books at home. This is because these tests test your reading and writing abilities. So having books at home and actually reading them can give you an advantage. It's not only an advantage into your scores, but also an advantage into your future success and career. In fact, Business Insider found that people who had higher SAT scores were more likely to be accepted into top colleges, more likely to earn advanced degrees, more likely to earn more scholarship money, and more likely to gain more income, more money. And this entire process boils down to reading. In knowing this, why not choose to read? The second benefit is escape, both literally, as we just discussed, but also figuratively. Sometimes we need a distraction, and books allow you to step into the feet of another person and experience a journey other than your own life, a new eye-opening story. These characters on pen and paper transfer a message without making a sound. They can make you feel a certain way without it being your story, and they can make you learn progressively. This beautiful concept is vaguely similar to how our generation loses themselves into Netflix, but without the implications of technology. The third benefit is one that we can all relate to: stress. All of us here are stressed over our schoolwork, our exhausted extracurricular activities, and our busy social lives. So what can we possibly do about it? Well, reading is among the best de-stressors. It allows you to alleviate tension from your body and even help you fall asleep easier. When it comes to school, you may need a book in order to alleviate stress. However, school may be the reason why you don't enjoy books in the first place. Let's revisit our survey. To the question asking whether you enjoyed the books the school assigned, note that more than half of you strongly disliked the books that our curriculum assigns. So if you fit into these 4 lower categories, ask yourself, have you subconsciously created a negative image based on reading, based on a book that you were once forced to read in school? This happened to me, not at school, but at home. My mom, being a writer, pressured me to enjoy reading from a very young age, so I mindlessly pushed the idea away, until I found a book of my own interest. I encourage you to do the same. So pinpoint a genre that you're interested in. Then go to your local library, research online, or even ask your peers for a recommendation. And lastly, stick to it. You will find a book that you identify with, your special book, among the countless ones out there. The fourth benefit, the most important one, can build community. A study published by the Huffington Post showed that people who had recently read fictional books had experienced boosts in empathy. This is because, as we read, we identify with the protagonist. We become more self-aware and aware of others because we're in the feet of another person. This means that we're capable of intuiting what other people feel. We are capable of intuiting what other people think. This is the fourth benefit. Social understanding, empathy, communication, or as I like to call it, a mind-reading ability, a superpower. I would like you all to close your eyes. Imagine a society where we were all mindful, where nobody ever became a social outcast, where you did not have to bottle up feelings because those around you understood. Imagine if you knew how to communicate effectively with others, therefore preventing conflict or solving it. Now open your eyes to see that if we all had this mind-reading ability, our community would reach unprecedented heights. Why should you believe me? Well, because I experienced this shift in my own family and social circle through a book that changed my life, All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This book features a young German soldier named Werner during World War II. One of the most impactful scenes in the book features him being trapped underground with the vibrations of bombs nearby and deprived of basic life supplies. The way the chapter is described is disturbing, and I felt immense sympathy. But more importantly, I gained sudden in-depth understanding and appreciation for a family member of mine. I had always been aware that my grandfather, considered an intellectual force in my family, had experienced a similar scene to the one Werner in the book had. But I never really got it. But after stepping into the feet of the character of this book, I suddenly gained appreciation, and I understood. I understood why, when we would go out to restaurants, we would say, order what you wish, but finish every last bite. I understood why every ounce of food was significant, just a small piece of his broad mind. His experience through a war as an innocent kid, I was able to perceive through Werner's perspective. Perhaps the craziest connection of all is that my grandfather, like the protagonist of this book, was also named Werner. They were both brilliant, brave, and lived through pivotal experiences. And now I, Elinor, because of a book, to a greater extent understood that. And there we are. So let's recap. Reading has critical benefits, ranging from increasing your likeliness to succeed in life to reaching global interconnectivity through empathy. We can unlock so much potential. So let's do it. Take this from me, somebody your own age who understands you. Reading is critical, not only because of the previous benefits I just listed, but also because there is an underlying fifth benefit. And that is, the books carry the development of society from the beginning of time. How do we know about the first myths in history? They were parchments that became the first books. How do we know what to believe about God? The Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Noble Eightfold Path. How do we know about evolution? Darwin's On the Origin of Species, and so on. Again, we can unlock so much potential. So let's allow reading to help us emerge as the best version of ourselves. With more insights, with more empathy, with likeliness to succeed, and with a mind-reading ability. You could learn so much more about yourself, and you could learn so much more about the world around you. Every important event and innovation and legacy and historical figure has been captured in a book, and so will they continue to be. Through books, people have been able to leave a message, a mark, a legacy, understanding the past and communicating with the future. It simultaneously allowed them to stand out from the crowd and to push society forward. But, of course, all of these stories would be left untold unless we read them. Thank you.